The following is a presentation of 4-Star Sports Media.
My guys are grizzlies and tigers, baby. We animals and we don't lose. We give you the blues when you come to us. Be ready for war. We lacing up. You better bring a whole army with you, cause in Memphis here we don't play a bluff. This Memphis do, we ain't come to lose. We here to win. Pay your dues. Otherwise, I got bad news. What you came to do? Get the boys the blues. 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 What you came to do? Get the boys the blues.
Hello, Memphis fans, and welcome to the season premiere of The Point, where we talk all things Memphis sports. Tonight, we talk Tiger football. We're just mere short days away from the season getting started up. Everybody watching and listening right now, Facebook, YouTube, listening on Apple, Spotify, everywhere that you can get podcasts. Guys, if you want to call into the show tonight, call in to 662-408-8352 or text Heritage Fence lines. Line of the week. Heritage Fence will be bringing us they sponsor all our articles that we write on 4-Star Sports Media. We appreciate Corey and the guys over there at Heritage Fence. Anything you need from Heritage Fence, reach out to them on Facebook at heritagefencetn.com. Also, you're inside the Germantown Wine and Liquor Studio. For more, go by them 3730 Poplar Avenue. Stephen Plunk and Company will get you taken care of, or give them a call 901-737-3174. Tell them that The Point sent you by to see them. Guys, let's get started. 2021, the Memphis Tigers was not the standard. We'll put it that way. Ended up finishing 6-6 on the season. When you look back in seasons prior, Memphis went 6-3 in 8-3 in 2020, 12-2 in 2019, and then 8-6, 10-3 over the last 5 years. So when you look at this Memphis football team, of course, last year opening game, we thought we were going to see Grant Gunnell. We ended up not. We ended up seeing a young man from Texas named Seth Hennigan stepped in. Seth played tremendous. Over 1,000 yards, over 20 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions on the season. The running back room was a running back by committee. When you look at the beginning of the season, the Tigers were one of the best teams rushing the ball in all the country. Brandon Thomas, a young man that we've had on here at The Point, led the way the first 2 games. He was I think he was leading rusher after the first 2 games of the season, that being against Nicholls State and then Arkansas State. But when you look at the Tigers last year, I mean, there was games that, you really want to get the win, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. We got some guys from In Off the Bench podcast coming on tonight. Randy Jowers and Daniel Baugh will be with us around 7:30 tonight. Very, very excited to get those guys on the show. Also, guys, if you want to get in, call or text the Heritage Fence phone lines, 662-408-8352. Give us a call, and we will get you on air to talk Tiger football. Thank you, everybody watching right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Facebook, 4-Star Sports Media, Facebook, The Point, and also YouTube, the 4-Star Sports Media. Once again, if you want to call or text in, 662-408-8352. We're going to be talking about Tiger football this upcoming for 2022. My question to everyone out there is, chime in with us as well. What are your expectations for this Memphis team 2022? Really, really looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. We got these guys coming on here shortly. I'll be on around 7:30. Which will be a lot of fun. Randy Jowers and Daniel Baugh know a lot about Memphis football. Going to be a lot of fun. Ryan Silverfield will be coming into his 3rd year this year. When you look around the country and you look at head coaches in their third year, this is the year that things start to click. This is the year that they're getting their guys in there and making things happen. When you look at this team this year, you look at what Silverfield did in the transfer portal alone. Last year, Memphis had brought in 8 Division players or Power 5 players through the transfer portal. Only 1 played. That's a key stat for this Memphis football program. You've got guys that did not get on the field last year that are Power 5 talent. That's going to make an impact. It's just going to happen. They're going to make an impact on this team. You look at this year and who they brought in, and Javon Ducker, and Daniel. We can push it back. We can do 8. That's perfectly fine. Javon Ducker from Northern Illinois, MAC Freshman of the Year last year. I think the young man is going to have a great career at Memphis. He's a sophomore. You got Skates, another young man came in from slips my mind, Illinois, I believe. But he's going to be a good talent as well. Plus, you've got guys that Silverfield recruited well again. This is the second or third year in a row that Memphis had the best recruiting class in school history. That's something that Silverfield does a really good job of. You've got new coordinators this year, something that Memphis staff really hasn't really seen a lot of turnover on recently. You bring in Tim Cramsey out of Marshall. I think Tim Cramsey does a great job with this offense. Just watched a press conference with him recently. He's pretty cut and dry. He pretty well tells you how you're doing or how you're not doing. He knows that this offense has a lot to replace losing Calvin Austin last year and Sean Dykes. When you look at those 2 guys, you look at that's the majority of your production when it comes to offense. Last year, Calvin was a guy that, let's be honest, Seth Hennigan knew he could rely on Calvin to get him the ball, make plays, get a field. Calvin was obviously Seth's number 1 target throughout the entire year. When Calvin was out, you could tell it was a little bit different for Seth. I think this year, having that full summer to work with all these new guys, or I say new guys, but to work with the rest of the roster, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really, really, really good. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Once again, you want to call or text in 662-408-8352. We will get you on air. And we can talk Tiger football tonight here on The Point. Got Daniel Baugh and Randy Jowers coming on this evening with us. Going to be a lot of fun talking Memphis Tiger football. Six and 6. That's just something that, as a Memphis fan, you don't like. Yeah, you don't like this. When you go back and look, Rip Shear, Tommy West had him above 6 wins, but when you go look back a little, Rip Shear, he was on that 6-win cusp pretty much every season. You go back even before that, go back to the Chuck Stobart days. Chuck Stobart was essentially the same way. That's just how this team has been for years and years and years. Then you bring in Justin Fuente. Justin Fuente turned it around, not immediately, but it wasn't too long. Then you bring in a guy like Mike Mel. We see what he's done now. Like I said, Silverfield in his 3rd year. It's tough, man. He's 18-2 in November as a head coach. That's impressive. Memphis is 22 at home since 2017. As a program, that is a great stat to really throw in a lot of people's face if you can. When you look at the likes of people who've come into Memphis since 2017, you've got UCLA, obviously Mississippi State last year. Central Florida a few years back. SMU game day a few years back was another one. But this Memphis team, I think this year, this Memphis team is going to prove people that 6 and 6 was not the standard last year. We've talked to Brandon Thomas, running back from Little Rock, stellar player, He got injured last year, got banged up in that Tulsa game, received a concussion, and really wasn't the same since. We talked to him. We talked to Rodney Owens, and they both said a lot of the same things. That is, they know off the top 6-6 is not what this team is going to be. It's not what this team's is treating. 6-6 is not it for sure. I mean, go back and look. Season. You lose the East Carolina game. That's a toss-up game. Who knows? UTSA should have never lost that game. Should have never lost to Tulsa on the road as well. It's just last year was hard. Last year Memphis was learning how to. It felt like at times learning how to hold onto a lead. We got Daniel Baugh in here. Let me room real quick.
Hey, what up? Hey, how we doing? Yeah, it's a little choppy.
Doing good, man. You look at the Tiger football program for 2021 last season. 6 is not the standard of that, right?
No, not at all. When you look back on the season, obviously the great thing about being a Tiger is that you're a Tiger. The bad thing about being a Tiger fan is that, the expectations, you always want to hit that same benchmark, that same bar. And we've been accustomed to these seasons that have, been really spectacular, really special. And when you have a 6-6, a 500 season, it really, it kind of puts in perspective how hard it is to kind of build and kind of rebuild. But when you look back at last season, there were 3 or 4 games that were a toss-up that we should have won that we didn't. You factor a couple of those wins, and now you're talking about 8-4, and that's a totally, acceptable, meeting the bar, meeting expectation type season. But 6-6 just ain't getting it done. But I think this year there's a lot to look forward to, but a lot that's yet to be answered.
Yeah, and once again, I apologize. My internet, it's just having issues. Talk a little bit about the transfer portal and what Silverfield been able to do. Talked earlier about last year. We had 8 guys from Power 5 schools. Only one of them played out of the 8 we brought in last year.
Yeah, you look at the transfer portal one of 2 ways. I think first, when you look at it, you got to look at what you're losing. Obviously, on our podcast and off the bench, we had Morris Joseph Jr. on, a big contributor over the past few seasons for Memphis. Now he's gone and he's headed to Auburn to play. Grant Gunnell comes in as a quarterback, and from what we knew last year, he was supposed to be the guy. He comes in, Seth Hennigan plays amazing, earns the job, rightfully, takes the job, this year, and hasn't really relinquished that. And now Grant Gunnell is on his ways over at North Texas. So you got to talk first about the guys that are leaving. Now you talk about the guys that are coming in. When you look at the guys coming in, I think Joe Skates is the guy that jumps off the board, first and foremost. He is that explosion, that dynamic player that, we're really used to seeing. And I think, Javon Ducker is another guy coming in that I think is going to be, helpful. But really, I think the big guy literally the big guy to look for is offensive lineman, Ira Henry from FSU. I think him, and then we got a guy from Syracuse that I think are really going to anchor things down. And we got a good group of incoming guys from other D1 schools, big time D1 schools, that I think are going to be major contributors.
And the young Syracuse, he was their number 4 last year. I think this linebacker crew could possibly be better than our second.
Yeah, I think defensively, I think the issue wasn't really the defensive backs and so much the secondary. It was really just not a lot of pressure and not a lot of oomph on the defensive line. I mean, you go from being really the worst in the conference at third down stops to hopefully being able to add some pressure, stop the run a little bit, but also give your guys on the defense in the secondary a chance to like catch up, regroup, and not have to play with their backs against the wall.
All right, Daniel, 2022, man. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. We start off with a road trip down Starkville, Mississippi. And fans know that's not easy to go play, especially start of the year. It's going to be hot and I'll get out down there. Let's talk a little bit about that game specifically. You have a history between these two teams. I'm sure you remember the Tommy West, Jack Sherrill at midfield incident a few years back. But let's talk Mississippi State team. What do you see this game?
When you think about it, obviously, you don't have to get pumped up and get excited for SEC games, especially games against Mississippi State, Ole Miss, guys within the region, within the neighborhood, so to speak. But I think when you look at what Mississippi State has, I mean, Will Rogers at quarterback, you've got some explosion, you got high power there. It's going to be a test for sure. The first game always is. It's always kind of muddy, kind of sloppy. You get either a lot of offense or a ton of just sloppiness that keeps the score down low. But with what we got with Seth Hennigan, with what they got with Will Rogers, I think everything's going to start and end from the quarterback position. And I think it's going to come down to, much like it did last year, key, third down stops and key turnovers that are going to make the difference in the game. I mean, obviously, probably on paper, Mississippi State maybe is supposed to win, but there's one thing that we can't do is count the Tigers out of games like this, because they always show up, they always play well, and they're gonna keep you in, they're gonna claw around, and if they're in it late, I think they got a chance to win.
Yeah, and one thing I expect this team to improve on is I really expect Memphis offensive line to get back to the offensive lines of a few years when you had guys like Tony Pollard and Tony and such. What do you see this offensive line improving this year? I know we got a kid from Michigan State that really needs to get going.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at the past seasons, and you always want to do a comparison and a trend set from season to season, and we've been accustomed to two things: really good wide receivers and really good running backs. The thing is we have to find the running game again. And whether that starts with the offensive line or whether, that starts with, Tim Cramsey coming in and putting in a system that's going to allow us to run the football better. I think Seth Hennigan's gonna get his shots. He's gonna throw the ball. He's proven like he can throw the ball, and he's gonna score touchdowns. He's gonna get it to the guys down the field. But I think we need to open up the run game. We need to utilize some of these explosive backs that we have coming in. And rely on some of the guys that we're deep with. That's one position that I would say we're extremely deep in, is at running back.
Yeah, I think it's one of the deepest rooms we have. The quarterback room is also very, very deep, and we'll touch on that here shortly. When you look at, we just talked about Jim Cross made a comment, Odell is going to be a monster. Talk a little bit about that defensive secondary. Greg Rubin, you got the kid from his name slips my mind. The other corner, Barnett from Michigan State. Talk a little bit about that secondary, and talk a little bit about that secondary against that Mississippi State offense.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the test. If we're gonna see how good we are in the secondary, it's gonna be in game one. You know what Mississippi State's going to do. They're going to throw the ball. They're going to throw it at you, whether that's out routes, whether that's little slants, whether that's like, pick and pops here and there. Like it doesn't matter. You know that they're going to throw the ball. So I think it's a good test for the secondary to show, like, in my opinion, probably the strongest part of what Memphis has returning is that. But also it's going to be a tough task. It could go south really quick, and so you might have to figure out, well, are these the guys that we think they are, or do we need to figure it out? But I think that's the game. Game one is the game that's really gonna push them and propel them one direction or the other. And as a fan, like, um, I'm excited to see that, but on the defensive side, but I'm also a little nervous to see that too, because that's been really the Achilles heel over the past few seasons is the defense. And they've been better than they have in the past, but still not where they need to be in a conference like the American.
Yeah. In a conference that scores points, that can score points almost at will at times. Daniel, speaking of defense, Matt Barnes comes in from Ohio State. Mike McIntyre is no longer there. I know that makes a lot of Memphis fans happy, just being honest. I personally liked McIntyre. I honestly did. What do you think of Matt Barnes, and what do you think of this defense this year? Obviously, it's a different scheme, which really has Memphis fans excited. But what do you think of Matt Barnes?
I mean, he's a winner. Like he comes from a program that wins. He comes from a program where obviously there's big time offensive names, but there's big time defensive names there. That's come through that program as well. But I think it's just what Memphis needed to feel a little bit of excitement moving forward, because you're right, they were kind of getting tired of the same old because it was the same thing with the same result with the same guys. So now we changed the guy, different person, different scheme. Hopefully we get a little bit different result. I think there will be some growing pains, obviously, with any kind of new system that you put in. You got to tailor it to the guys that you have. And Barnes may not be able to do everything he wants to do because he just doesn't have the personnel to do it. But I think the difference here is that he's coming from a school where you have to be able to modify your defense according to what you have, but also what you're going to play from week on or week in, week out. So, knowing that we got a guy from Ohio State that's running the ship on the defensive side, knowing that we're going to get a high-powered offense coming in game one, I think we'll find out a lot, game one. And then, obviously Navy game two is not, they're never an easy like system to tackle. They're always very difficult. They've always got a lot of wrinkles and a lot of different things and a lot of play action, a lot of pass, a lot of option, a lot of reads and things that happen from the quarterback. So I think the first 2 weeks are a good test to see, where Matt Barnes is, what he has, and what direction we think that we're going to go for that season.
That's such a hard transition. You're going from air raid to triple option. That is just literally night and day offenses. All right, Daniel, before we get you out here, man, I got to get some predictions from you. Give me 4 predictions. What are your predictions for the team as a whole for the season? The staff, offense, and defense.
All right, so I'll start with this. I'll save the team prediction for last. Kind of culminate it. The one thing that we needed to improve upon more than any other, I think, was defensive efficiency, stops on third down. I'm expecting Memphis to be a lot better. I would predict them not to be, in the top of the conference. I project them to be probably, 5th, 6th in the conference defensively, which is respectable given where we've come from. Obviously, I think what we hope is that at the end of this season, we look back and go, man, the defense is much improved, and we have the ability to come back and be better the next season. Um, Offensively, I think if we can establish a run game, I'm not as concerned with the pass game. I think, you've got enough weapons, I think Ivory's gonna have a breakout season. I think he's gonna be um, absolutely crucial, absolutely clutch. I think Hennigan's going to have another really good season. And, he doesn't have to have the season he did last year if the run game's better, which I wouldn't predict him to have a season as good as he did last year if our run game improves. But it wouldn't surprise me if he continued the trend. We had him on the In Off the Bench podcast as well, and he said he's got a lot to work on. He just wants to get better day by day, but he did say, like, he's ready to compete. He is better than he was last year. He'll continue to improve, and he said it himself. You're going to be surprised on what you see from him, but also from the team as a whole. Um, you know, uh, Looking at the team, so kind of a prediction for the season. I mean, on paper, you look at the teams and you go, all right, this is a pretty favorable schedule. Um, but given how we operate, how we've done in the past 2 seasons with certain teams, it could go a couple of ways. I could easily see us 8-4, um, even 9-3 to an extent, but I think 7-5 is realistically where we are. I think, we go to Mississippi State, we fight hard. I think we come up short. I think we win at Navy. I don't think Navy's that good. I think we win against Arkansas State. I think we win at North Texas, and I think we win against Temple. Um, I think Houston coming home that next week, I think that's where we're going to struggle. And I don't know. I mean, it's one of those games that could be a toss up. But I foresee us losing that game. The next game, East Carolina, is the one that we gotta we gotta take. We can't drop that game. That's a game on the schedule every year that you gotta win. Tulane has to be a win. UCF comes to Memphis and on homecoming. Um, we've notoriously not played UCF well, and I think having them at homecoming might give it an extra little juice. I still don't think they're good enough to beat them right now. But as the season moves on and progresses, that feeling in me might change. But right now, I got it down as a loss. I got Tulsa down as a loss. I got North Alabama a win, and I got SMU a loss. So putting them at 7-5 bowl contention.
Yeah.
A little bit higher level bowl than where they were last year, but definitely not in the realm where we want to be competing for an American championship, but we're moving in the right direction.
I think if you take 7-5, 8-4, you have to accept that. I mean, obviously, you do, but hell, we accepted 6-6. But at 7-5, 8-4, that's a good season for Memphis football. And I think if you can continuously win 8 games, you can start creeping into the 9 games. Then you creep into that 10 every once in a while. Things like that's how you get on the right trajectory. And I think this team's there. I like Coach Silverfield. I like what he's doing with the staff. I don't know how much patience the fan base is going to have, but I really, when you think back to Kevin Dons and Mike McIntyre, it almost me back to the Rip Shearer days of, God, here it is again, same stuff. Oh, there it is again. Like from the stands, you could almost call the play before he called it. I mean, that's really what it felt like. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, prior to Tommy West, even to an extent during Tommy West,
Yeah.
you had an idea of a pretty, typical game plan and game scheme, especially whether we were up by a little, up by a lot, or
Yeah.
down by a little. Like you kind of had an idea, especially on third downs and short, third down and long, the same play was coming. You move past that, you get into, we're going to skip over Larry Porter and go right to Norvell. But yeah, then you start getting some wrinkles, you get some playmakers, you start developing on those, and then you see like these special 10-win seasons happen. I think Silverfield has that potential in him, but I think this year of any year is a very, very must have a breakthrough of some sort this season because you're right, Wes, man. The fan base is not they're not patient enough to give this guy another 6-6 season without there being some really strong conversations that are going to be had.
And I don't understand that. I get it.
I mean, I think the worst thing that has happened to Ryan Silverfield is the fact that you got 4 of your top teams leaving to go to a bigger conference, and you're kinda on the outside, looking in again, and you have to win. Like, the first thing that you have to do in order to be considered for a big conference is win. Then you gotta fill stadiums and sell tickets and be able to market yourself and generate revenue. I think Memphis can generate revenue. I think, having a smaller stadium closer to campus would help, but I'm not, ruling out that they can generate money through the Liberty Bowl. I mean, I've seen that place. I've seen it. I've been there when it's rocking and rolling. I mean, I went to the Cotton Bowl. I saw the amount of fans that
Yeah.
travel. Um, they're willing to get behind the product, but the first thing you got to do is you got to win. So if you don't win, this might be a really tough season for Silverfield. I don't think he'll get fired by no means or replaced,
No.
but I think there might be some tough conversations that he might have to have, and he might have to answer some tough questions if things don't go the way that they need to go this year.
Daniel Ball's joining us from In Off Bench podcast. These guys, we've had Jim Cross and Randy Jowers on before. These guys do an incredible job. They got primo guests every time you turn around. They're getting a coach here, a player from here. I mean, it's they do an incredible job over there. Thank you very much for joining us tonight here on The Point. Daniel, before I let you go, man, tell everyone how they can follow you. Tell everyone how they can follow your podcast.
Man, anywhere that you get your podcast, type in Off the Bench, you'll see it. You'll see our 3 mugs on there. I have to say I'm probably the best looking of the 3. They're not here to defend that, so I'll stand by that. But yeah, we drop episode. We record on Monday, record on Wednesday, so the day after is usually when we drop. So we just dropped one last night. We had a great episode with offensive lineman at University of Tennessee, Jerome Carvin. His drop today, and then we got Mississippi State stud baseball player Luke Hancock tomorrow, so his will drop on Thursday. But yeah, check us out. We got a website, got Instagram, got Twitter, In Off the Bench. You can follow me, Daniel Baugh, Jim Cross, Randy Jowers, all of us to get the latest and greatest when it comes to the In Off the Bench podcast.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, we really hope here at 4-Star Sports Media that we can get a good relationship with you guys and keep you guys coming back on. You guys have incredible coverage. Your college baseball coverage is some of the best in the country, and I said it out loud. In the country, it's some of the best in the country. You guys just do an incredible job. Thank you very much for coming tonight and talking Tiger football.
Absolutely, Wes, man. I appreciate it, man. Look forward to joining you again. Anytime we get a chance to talk about Tigers, hit me up. I'll be here for you.
Gotcha, man. Appreciate it, Daniel.
All
Guys,
right.
you're
Appreciate
inside,
it, Wes.
You are inside the Germantown Village Wine and Liquor Studio. For more, go by and see him 7730 Poplar Avenue. Give him a call 901-737-3174. Go by and see my guy Stephen Plunk. He will get you taken care of. Daniel Ball was just joining us in Off the Bench podcast. Had some great points. Man, that guy knows his stuff. He knows his Tiger football. I hate to cut this short, but I'm having some connection issues tonight. But we will be right back next Tuesday night in Off the Bench. I'm sorry, the Point podcast. We may have another guy in Off the Bench. Who knows? But get back with us next Tuesday night. Hopefully, I have my connection to the internet fixed by then. But for more on Tiger football, reach out to 4-Star Sports Media, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. We have a TikTok channel now. For more on Tiger football, also go check out our articles, 4star.live. There will be a new Memphis article this week talking about Tiger football and the importance of this season for Ryan Stuartfield and this team. Thank you to everybody watching and listening. Once again, you've been inside the Germantown Village Wine and Liquor Studio, also presented to you by Heritage Fence Company. For more, reach out to them on Facebook at Heritage Fence TN. Once again, everybody watching and listening, and we are out.